was on the pool table down there at JJ's, and he sort of was underage at the time, but we got him free because Tim was in the band and played there every weekend. Bolin's this big old motherfucker. He kind of looks like the retarded older brother of Jose Canseco, like with bad hair. So he's sitting on the pool table, and him and Heath had just gotten back from Myrtle Beach, and they was staying in this place on the beachfront. They're up on the 3rd floor, you know. And Bolin's up there like smoking a joint, kind of leaning on the railing. And he turns around to Heath and he says, "Man, what the hell are we gonna do tonight?" And then he falls, so the railing bursts, and he goes flying through the air, 3 stories down, like hits the parking stop and just breaks his face. But Bolin is the kind of guy, man, he ain't gonna die. It won't kill him. He could fall 3 stories and he ain't gonna die. So they took him to the hospital, wired his face shut, and he came back to Madison. So here he is sitting on the pool table, you know, kind of what he had done was he took his nerve pills and his pain meds, and he was kind of shoving them back into a crack in his teeth, around, going flash the wire, shoving them in there, and he was saying, "Man, I'm the baddest motherfucker in this bar. I'll kick anybody's ass. You playing with fire, boy." And Tim said, "Man, we just want to play billiards, boy. I don't know about the fire, man. Give me billiards." And Bolin said, "Fuck you, Tim Noble. We ain't gonna play no fucking billiards. What the hell is goddamn billiards?" But that's sort of getting ahead of the story a little bit. See, the evening started down at Tim's dad's place. It has this, like, up near Lower Hewitt, you sort of drive down off Corridor G, and there's this like shack there, and up in the roof there's like a control room that looks down on all this heavy equipment, and that's where the band would play, you know, that Tim was in. And his brother James Noble, Jim, who when he first moved to Madison, they came from like North Carolina, nobody knew where they came from, and so they said he was a narc. And so their band was called Narc, and they was practicing up in there in that space. And like when practice got over, he was like, "Man, what are we gonna do? It's kind of boring." So Tim's like, "Man, I'll tell you what, I got some pretty good porno." So he sort of like put it in VCR, you know. He's sitting there like watching it, and I felt kind of weird sitting around a bunch of dudes watching porno. So I went outside, smoked, and after a while they come out and said, "You know, I'm gonna drive on up the road a little bit, and we'll go down there to JJ's and drink some." So we got into the car, man. Tim Noble was not a very good driver. And so we was like in the car, you know, and it's like me and him and Jim and Gerald and Roberts and Gerald's little brother Steve. And we're all driving up the road. And Tim, as he drives, he likes to sort of turn and he kind of talks to you. So he's like driving and he would turn and say, "Man, can you believe what we just saw there? We're going this one crazy." And when he would say, he sort of drift off into the berm a little bit, and somebody'd say, "Hey, man, Noble, goddamn, man." And he'd sort of jerk the car back in the road. "Man, I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry." So we drove on like this with him kind of talking, drifting, and somebody saying, "Man, get your ass back up in the road." So we finally ended up down there at JJ's, you know, and it's like the place is down there by the Methodist church, and you go down, like the big brick church is sitting right there, and you kind of go down into the parking lot. There's this sort of staircase that leads down into the place, and there's always, you know, Jamie's always there working the door, and he usually lets us in because he's the guitar player in the band that Tim is in, and even though he's minor, we could get in there at the time. So we would go in there, and that's what we did that night. And the bartender is this dude named Jamie who wears, I don't know why he does this, to be honest with you, but he always wears these kind of like sandal things, and he shot his toe off in the woods. And so he don't have no big toe on his right foot, but he's that all over the place. He don't give a shit. You know, he's walking around with one toe missing. People just tend to stare. So he was there at night. He gave us all a drink, you know, down in the basement. We smoked a joint, came up, and that's when we see bowling on the pool table, which is never good, you know, because bowling is this kind of guy that he likes to fight, but he ain't gonna do that. So he starts this fight with Tim as we're standing there trying to play billiards, which nobody really had ever heard people say much, but Tim said it, and he was our friend, so we're going to play billiards, goddamn. So bowling is like, "You ain't going to play no fucking billiards, goddamn." Well, it just so happened Davey Rowe was there. He'd just gotten out of jail, and he don't like bowling at all, and he came over and said, "Man, fuck you, because they play the song I like to hear when I come here to drink, and you ain't going to mess with them when they play billiards." So bowling told Davey Rowe, "He's going to kick your sorry ass, just like they did back in fucking Moundsville." And they ended up out in the parking lot. which I really didn't care much to see because I knew how it would play out, and it's exactly what happened. They went to the parking lot, and Davey road punched him, broke the wire out of his jaw, and they had to take him back in and get him wired shut again, which is just, it's a mess. So instead, I went on down to the other bar, Clyde's, where my dad's Navy buddy works. And Clyde is this dude that he kind of looks like if you took an unfiltered Camel cigarette, you'd smoke halfway down and just crushed it in the ashtray. That's what Clyde looks like. So I sat down there at the bar and said, "Hey man, Clyde, is it too late to get a drink? Because I know you're about to close." And Clyde said, "No, that's okay. If you don't mind if I clean up, I'll give you a drink because your dad was in the Navy with me." So I gave him some money and got my beer, and I was sitting there drinking while Clyde's kind of like mopping around in the corners and wiping down the tables and not much talking, About this time, this kind of like holler dude comes in, like he's sort of like a creeker, and sticks his head in the door and says, "Hey Clyde, man, you girl, I get a beer." And Clyde said, "God damn it, come on in, you gotta have one more, and that's it." So he come in and he got himself a Bud Light and sat by me there at the bar, and Clyde continued to clean, I didn't know what the hell to say to that dude. I mean, he's a weird looking dude. He's really intense, kind of like tall and real chalky looking, like just all black on, like a patch in his beard. So finally I said, "Man, what's happiness?" That's what I'm wondering, goddammit. I thought he would toast me, but he said, "Oh, happiness. I don't think there is any happiness." We sat there for a minute, and I thought, well, that's kind of a depressing thing to say. But I kind of wonder why he thinks that. Why would you think that? Everybody has some kind of happiness in life. So I said, "Man, what do you mean there ain't no happiness?" I got no happiness. And the guy says, "I'll tell you what happiness is." When I was younger, I lived up in Harts Creek, and I had this little boy. He's only about maybe 4 or 5 years old. He was real tan from being outside in the sun all the time. He had blonde hair, And he used to play in the yard. And there's this other girl that lived on up at the head of the holler, and she was about the same age, and looked really similar to my son. So when they'd be playing in the yard, they would both be running around in their shorts or whatever, and like very tan, and they're very blonde hair. And if you seen them from behind, you really couldn't tell which one was which. So I watched him grow up and play there in the holler, and they went to school together, and they dated, and went to the prom, and all these things. Everybody thought they'd get married. And then they got to graduation, and on the day they graduated, I threw a big old party back at the house. And when they came home, I got my son drunk, and I fucked her. And I kept on fucking her. My son left, and I don't really care where he went. But she had my child. And that's happiness.